one of the masters in Joe Gibbs, who makes adjustments during halftime to capitalize on the fact that they only have 13 minutes for halftime. And we'll elaborate on that a bit more as you take a look at Joe Gibbs making some notes, and I'm certain from the adjustments he's made in the locker room. Detroit will receive the second half kickoff as Lowmiller puts it in the air. Gray from the 6. And Randy, talk about an organized coach at halftime. That's Joe Gibbs.
Well, they have limited time now at halftime. So what Joe Gibbs does, the coaches start meeting with about 2 minutes left to go in the first half. That is very important. The assistant coaches have the diagrams. They're up in the press box. They come down to the locker room. They have the diagrams on the locker room board already. The photos from upstairs are already there. And the coaches, curiously enough, run off the field first at the end of the first half so they can get in there right away and get the game plan for the second half underway.
Lions 1st and 10, ball from their own 18. Just underway here in the third. Rodney Peete with the long count. Hands off on the draw to Barry Sanders. And Sanders ahead for 6 yards. And Randy, the point again, Joe Gibbs really not very pleased with the shortened halftime, but says, hey, fellas, what can we do to take advantage of it? Let's make certain that we're organized.
And I don't think anybody really notices except for the television people and the coaches and players. To the fans, the extra 2 minutes doesn't make, well, maybe it makes a little bit of difference. You wait in line it too long, you're not going to miss the kickoff for the second half.
2nd and 4. Trips left, 3 wide receivers to the left for the Lions. Long count by Peete. Sanders, the ball carriers. Met hard by Brad Edwards after a gain of only about 2.
And these halftime stats look extremely even except for the time of possession. The key so far in this game in the first half was the Washington Redskins making some mistakes, and when the Detroit Lions did take advantage of the mistakes and did score, they scored quickly on big plays.
3rd and 2 for the Lions from their own 25. Peete throwing for Robert Clark, incomplete. Todd Bowles over pushing him out of bounds. So the Lions will have to punt. As Jim Arnold comes on, the 8th-year vet from Vanderbilt, and he'll be punting to Walter Stanley. Walter Stanley really wants to get involved more in the Washington offense as a receiver. He is Mr. Confidence. Arnold gets a good one away this time, pushing Stanley back to the 19. And Stanley gets up and continues to run up to about the 28. So very obviously he wasn't touched by the Lion near him. A 46-yard punt and 8-yard return.
Coming into this game, the posse, Gary Clark, Art Monk, and Ricky Sanders, had come off 3 pretty rough weeks. Well, so far today, they have 10 receptions between them and off to a good start, mainly because Stan Humphries has showed a lot of poise and a lot of patience. And aside from one really bad pass, Stan Humphries has made a point through Coach Joe Gibbs to get the ball downfield to his wide receivers. Last week, he threw 10 completions to Donnie Warren alone.
Hands off on the ground to Riggs.
And just to follow up on that Donnie Warren thing a little bit, he threw 10 passes to Donnie Warren and 2 passes to Jimmy Johnson. 12 of his completions last week were to his tight ends. Highly unusual for this Washington Redskins offense. They're used to getting things outside, and even Donnie Warren admits, he goes, look, my job is to put my nose in there and blast away. I'm a blocker. I'm not going to be a guy wearing a towel on my side. I'm not a real threat as a receiver.
After 6 games on the play, this brings up a 2nd and 4. Ricky Sanders in motion. Riggs, nowhere to go. A horde of Lions led by Michael Kofer. Loss of 3 on the play. as Kelvin Bryant comes on. The third down situation. Monk and Clark come in. Riggs, Johnson, and Ron Middleton head to the sidelines. Ray Crockett comes on for the Lions. 5 defensive backs, their nickel package. Third, and call it 7. Humphries. Complete to Gary Clark for the first down. And Clark walloped by William White. 13-yard pass play from Humphries to Clark.
And here's Gary Clark working one-on-one, it seems, against Leroy Irvin. And Irvin just stumbles a little bit with that move by Clark, and the ball is zipped right in there by Humphries. The Redskins need to stay patient. They need to stay with their effective running game and their intermediate passing game, 12 to 17 yards.
From their own 44, first and 10. Monk in motion. Play action. Humphries. Well, Clark throws it, intercepted by Benny Blades. Third interception thrown today by Stan Humphries.
Well, we talked about the poise and the patience that Humphries has shown so far this game. On 2 plays, he hasn't. One was an interception for a touchdown, and the other one was that one right there. Poorly thrown ball, overthrows Clark, and Benny Blades is right there to take advantage. He threw that one right into the teeth of the zone. Clark makes his break, and right about now knows I don't have a chance to get that one.
And Benny Blades, who took a lot of ribbing last week for dropping a surefire interception, holds on to this one. You take a look at a dejected Stan Humphries on the sidelines, who was just talked to by Joe Gibbs, but I'm sure the dejection comes from the fact that Jeff Rutledge, longtime quarterback, 12th-year player out of Alabama, looks as if he's going to be going in on the next Redskins possession. First and 10 for the Lions. Ball at the 45 of Washington. Pete. Incomplete. Hits the turf. Intended receiver Terry Greer. 10:45 remaining in the third. Washington trailing by 2 touchdowns.
Right now, at this point in the third quarter, seems to be a real lull with both teams. Both teams seem to be a little bit like the wind has gone out of the sails a little bit. You'd expect more motion, more fire, more jumping up and down out of Detroit. They just had a big play.
Second and 10. Sanders, the ball carrier. First down. Headed for pay dirt. Touchdown, Detroit.
Watch Johnson jump off sides. His jumping off sides open up the hole in the middle. He gets back, but he commits way to his right. Glover moves him to the left. Delafour moves Williams to the left and opens a huge hole for Barry Sanders.
And Carlos with the point after as Barry Sanders scampers 45 yards a season and career long. Lions comfortably ahead. The silver stretch, alias the run and shoot, working well. Lions on top 35-14. That last drive, 2 plays, 45 yards, 13 seconds as Barry Sanders, season and career long on that run. From the 8, Stanley. Across the 25. across the 35 to the 37-yard line. So an excellent return by Walter Stanley, dropped by Tracy Hayward.
Now let's watch the middle of this Washington Redskins team open up. Here's Eric Williams. Here's Johnson jumping off sides. But watch Delafour, the right guard, and Glover, the center, completely seal this part of the defense off and open up Barry Sanders with no contest the rest of the way for 45 yards. There's the seal-off by Delafour and Glover. Now, unless he runs into the goalpost, nothing's going to stop him before he gets in there for 6.
And Barry Sanders, who says he doesn't pay any attention to the stats or reads the papers, just likes to play. And playing right now at quarterback for the Washington Redskins, Jeff Rutledge, number 10. First and 10 for the Skins from their own 37. Rutledge throws it complete to Art Monk, and Monk has the first down. So Rutledge comes off, uncorks quickly with a 10-yard strike to Art Monk.
We talked about the contrast in offensive styles in this first half. In fact, this game so far, Washington has its stats. They have the time of possession. Detroit's longest scoring drive today has been a drive of 2 minutes and 28 seconds. They have had nothing but big, rapid-fire drives. Big plays, bang, scores.
What will they be like when they really get some talent? From the 48, first and 10, 9:47 remaining in the third. Rutledge. Art Monk complete on the comeback route. And it's inbounds. About 4 yards shy of the first down.
Got to look for a replay on a play like that, James.
Think so?
If he had possession and both feet down in the ground. Let's check this out. Does he have the ball and do both feet get in? Got the ball. Well, the knee's as good as both feet in it.
What's the old saying?
That's right.
One knee equals 2 feet. Second and 4. Ball marked at the 45 of Detroit. Riggs, the lone back. Riggs, the ball carrier. And Riggs scoots ahead for a couple, maybe 3. Jerry Ball doing a good job of clogging things up there.
I really don't think this move at quarterback for the Washington Redskins can really be considered a move of desperation. I think this is a move they have got to make. They are in a situation they have got to win this game, period, end of discussion. And whatever it takes them to do, that's what Joe Gibbs is willing to do. If that means putting Russ Grimm at quarterback, he'll probably be his third string quarterback at this point. That might be what he has to do.
Enzo hoping it doesn't get that bad. On 3rd and 2, Rutledge back to pass again and throws it complete to Sanders. Sanders inside the 20. Down to the 10-yard line. Benny Blades stops him. A 33-yard pass play from Jeff Rutledge to Ricky Sanders.
Rutledge is going to fire this ball out here, and McNorton, number 29, is going to take a chance. He's going to gamble, and he's going to lose. Going to break it up, diving in front. Sanders keeps with that ball, tries to break back right here. He's going for the end zone. Blades and Gibson put him down.
Washington's got some work cut out for them. Trailing 35-14, 7:50 remaining from the 10-yard line. Riggs inside the 5. And Gerald Riggs pulling his way down to about the 3. A 7-yard pickup by Gerald Riggs. Well, Jeff Rutledge has been waiting for this opportunity ever since he came to Washington. One of the reasons Joe Gibbs convinced him to come to Washington was to say, hey, remember the situation that Doug Williams was in? The same thing could happen for you. On 2nd and 3, Riggs. Touchdown, Washington Redskins. So Jeff Rutledge comes on in his first series and moves the Skins downfield and to a score. And Rutledge, also the holder. Lohmiller had been using.
Nothing clean, nothing fancy here. Getting good push on the right side by Simmons and McKenzie and Bostic. Riggs just powers his way through.
And the point after is good, so Washington narrows the gap on that touchdown 35-21. Plenty of time remaining in this contest. 7:13 left in the third. Washington trailing by 2 touchdowns, 35-21. And that scoring drive, 6 plays covering 63 yards, 3:24 was the time of that drive. They've got 3:10. It was actually 3:24, and Gerald Riggs powers it over for a 3-yard score. Gray dropped inside the 10, a late flag as John Brandis dropped Mel Gray.
Is John Brandis, the special teams specialist for the Washington Redskins, leading the Redskins in special teams tackles. And here's the replay. Keep an eye on Jimmy Johnson, lead blocking on Jimmy Williams. Simmons working against Ferguson. And Raleigh McKenzie working right here, open the way on the right side of the Redskins offense. Very nice blocking down by the goal line. Feiner has nothing to do but lower his shoulder and score.
So the Lions will take over deep in their own territory at the 4. 1st and 10. 7 minutes left in the third. Pete, the pass from his own end zone. Threw it behind the intended receiver, Aubrey Matthews. And Randy, we've got ourselves a high-scoring affair here at the Pontiac Silverdome. Lions on top, 35-21. James Brown along with Randy Cross. 6:56 remaining in the third.
And what we have here are two teams fighting for a playoff spot, throwing bombs at each other. This is no let's hunt and peck and kind of jab them and see how things are going. They're coming from downtown with every punt today.
2nd and 10 for the Lions. At their own 4. Two seconds left on the play clock. Pete looking back to the left and overthrows the intended receiver, Robert Clark. So the Redskins' defensive movement that time perhaps confused Pete somewhat, Randy.
He looked to be confused. He looked to the right when he came back to the left. What he saw, he did not expect. That's why he threw that ball up and away. It was a good decision on his part, throwing this ball away. But it's incredibly important right here that Detroit get this ball out. They'd love to get a first down. More important is for them to gain 3 to 5 yards to give Jim Arnold, their punter, room to stand in the end zone and punt. Right now, he'd be right on the end line if they have to punt.
Thus far, Rodney Pete on 0 of 4 this half. 3rd and 10 from their own 4. And Pete nearly intercepted by Sidney Johnson. The intended receiver was Richard Johnson, who did not look to be on the same page with Rodney Pete. Didn't even look at the ball.
On this particular play, I'm not completely sure. You see Pete limping here coming off of that sack. He may need a little help getting off the field. He got boloed from the right and the left. He got high load on that play by the Washington pass rush. That's what caused that ball to go up as high as it did and to be a poor throw. You see Detroit trainer Ken Fowle coming to his rescue, giving him a little help.
And there's Bob Galliano warming up. And Randy, you mentioned before, impressive numbers when he does play.
And keep in mind, James, there are only 2 active quarterbacks today for Detroit. Andre Ware is inactive today.
Arnold from his own end zone. Beautiful, beautiful punt. Stanley has to run it down. Fields it at the 42. Flag on a play as Stanley is gang tackled and dropped. Forward progress will have it at about the 42. A 57-yard punt by Arnold.
And it would appear we'll have a penalty against Washington on that return with an illegal block. You see Rodney Pete standing on the sideline talking to the trainers about what exactly happened. What exactly happened is Rodney hangs in as long as he possibly can, and doing that opens him up for a little hit from the high-low. Now remember, last year Rodney did have a bit of a gimp knee, and it might be a reoccurrence from last year's injury.
that was a good defensive push by the Redskins. One of the big knocks against the run and shoot is leaving the quarterback vulnerable.
Exactly. Watch Eric Williams, number 75, coming in from the left. Gets a good move on Dallafour and comes in and puts a knee right in the front of Rodney Peete's knee, much like Mark Rippon for Washington got 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Riggs, the ball carrier, on 1st and 10. Flag on the play.
And I know where that flag was thrown. That's more than likely holding against an offensive lineman.
Number 68, offense, 10 yards, first down.
That's Russ Grimm, 10th-year vet out of Pittsburgh.
You see him checking Rodney Peete on the sideline. They were stretching that left hamstring out a little bit. Anytime you get a leg hyperextended like that, it puts a lot of stress on the muscles on the back of the leg. Not on the front of the leg, on the back of the leg, and he may have strained a hamstring there.
Skins push back to their own 22, 1st and 18. Riggs. And Riggs gains a significant portion back. Looks to be about 2 yards shy of the necessary yardage for the first down.
And this is a play that made this Washington Redskin offensive line famous. Both these guys are going to go this way, and Riggs will come through and go up. Watch these blocks by Grimm and Lachey. They steamroll people. Bam, bam. They got Jimmy Williams and Spielman.
Back to live action as the Skins keep it on the ground. And enough for the first down as Riggs, the workhorse, pounds out the yardage. .454 remaining in the third. Lions on top, 35-21. On 1st and 10, Rutledge to Monk. And it's complete. 6-yard pass play from Rutledge to Monk. Bring up a 2nd and 4.
And there's no reason for Washington at this point to get impatient and start doing things crazy and going down the field. They made a mistake last time going a little too far down the field. Stay with your intermediate passing game, anywhere like at the short ones at 5 yards, at 7 yards, at 12 yards, and keep running the ball. There's plenty of time left.
Rutledge on 2nd down. Dumps it off to Riggs. Flag on a play. Riggs loses the ball. And it looks like Detroit recovered it. There is a flag on the play.
But I believe it's holding against Washington.
Offense, that penalty is declined. First down.
As Jimmy Williams comes up with the fumble recovery. And boy, fumble number 1 that the Washington Redskins have lost this year. And Jimmy Williams gives the Lions possession. The one word that Joe Gibbs does not like to have in his vocabulary is the word fumble. As a matter of fact, when our producer Bob Monsbach asked him about the stat that they had not fumbled and lost this year, he said, don't even mention the word, and that's what happened. Riggs turns it over. Lions ball at their own 46. Bob Galliano in the quarterback for the Lions on this series. And he hands off to Barry Sanders, who escapes one tackle. Sidney Johnson rides him out of bounds. A flag is thrown on the play.
Watch this replay. Watch Simmons, the right tackle. He moves. This is procedure. This is illegal motion against the Redskins to start this play. It should have been blown dead right there as he moved. because the tackle was in motion. The Riggs gets it, and the ball just pops loose. Nobody hit it. He went to change hands with it, and it just pops up in the air, and Jimmy Williams gets it.
So you take a look at Bob Galliano in at the helm for the Lions. It's been confirmed that Rodney Peete does have a hamstring pull. We'll find out how seriously and whether or not he will be back. Holding call on the last play on Lomas Brown brings up a first and call it 15 for the Lions. Ball at their own 40. Galliano back to pass. Overthrows the intended receiver, Terry Greer, incomplete. Now, Randy, with Galliano in at quarterback, what's the difference between he and Peete?
I think the difference in this offense with Galliano in, there's not much of a running threat from the quarterback position. But in a trade-off on that, Galliano is a quarterback who's familiar with the run and shoot. He ran it in Denver, in the USFL with Mouse Davis. He's a guy that's run this offense before and has a much better grasp of where those receivers are on the field than Rodney Peete does.
Take a look at Rodney Peete trying to shake off the effects of that slight hamstring injury. 2nd and 16 for the Lions. 3:26 remaining in the third. Galliano throwing it in the direction of Robert Clark. And Randy, I think here we should give an explanation. With that run and shoot offense, the receiver is to make an adjustment, and they seem to be on the wrong page that time.
Well, the receivers and the quarterbacks are supposed to be on the exact same page. They read a blitz, they read a coverage, and the quarterback throws it to a spot. On that play, obviously, one of them was very, very wrong.
Third and 16. Take a look at Detroit's third down conversion numbers. 6 DBs in for the Redskins. Galliano going for Richard Johnson, complete for the first down. So Galliano finds Johnson as Wilbur Marshall is down on the turf. And while Marshall is on the turf, Rodney Peete is being led off the sidelines to the locker room. And Wilbur looks to be grabbing that right arm or wrist of his, Randy.
Well, you can never tell when you play on this AstroTurf. You can get twisted and tripped and land in some funny places on this sticky surface. We'll take one more look at it from a different angle here. Galliano drops back, and here's Marshall coming around. 58 gets blocked out of your screen. We won't see what happened to him. It would have seemed maybe he got struck in the abdomen, might have had the wind knocked out of him.
And Marshall, one of the best conditioned athletes on this Redskins squad. Man is a practitioner of the martial arts and really prides himself on staying loose and in shape, and bounces up and looks to be okay. This game is presented by authority of the National Football League, and this CBS telecast is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of CBS, the Detroit Lions, and the National Football League is prohibited. So the Lions have a 1st and 10 situation. Ball at the 41 of Washington. 3:06 remaining in the third. Lions on top by 2 touchdowns. Trips right formation for the Lions. 2 seconds left on the play clock. Galliano going up top, complete to Johnson. First down inside the 20. There's a late flag thrown back near the quarterback. And this play will be brought back.
There was a personal foul after the play was dead, I believe, on Kevin Glover right there, number 53, the center for the Detroit Lions.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, 53, after the play.
And
after the play.
Glover, one of the more mild-mannered types around. Local boy out of the Washington area, went to University of Maryland.
And that play will stand. It'll mark the penalty back from there. But let's watch Johnson. right here. Second guy in as he breaks off the line right here. Let's watch him go down the field, and he's just going to break right through the seam. He's wide open right now. Galliano knows it, and he hits him. So one thing Washington cannot do against Bob Galliano is try to get too overzealous, give him too many funny looks, try to pressure him, and say he can't beat us throwing the ball. If Bob Galliano's going to beat you, he's going to take advantage of what this run and shoot will do to your defense.
We'll bring up a 1st and 25 situation as Wayne Fox looks on. Ball marked at the 33 of Washington. 2:28 left in the third. First down and more. Doesn't have to be used much, but he gains much. 15-yard scamper.
What the Lions have done, they've moved to trips formation over on this side. A quick flip and a soft corner, but for Barry Sanders, there's nothing once he gets outside. Galliano runs the option, flips it out there. Forget it, Monty Coleman. You're not going to catch Barry Sanders. Good call, good read by the Detroit Lions.
Galliano complete as Richard Johnson stretches down to the 10.
On that play, Bob Galliano got in the trips formation over there with 3 wide receivers to his left, flooded the zone, sending the 2 farthest out about 10-15 yards down, and dragged Johnson across about 7-8 yards deep for the completion.
3rd and 3, ball at the 10. Sanders. Charles Mann in on the stop, and we'll see where they mark his forward progress. And it's going to be shy of the first down marker, and you know what the fans want them to do. 10 carries, 100 yards today for Barry Sanders, and this is his first 100-yard game of the season. Fans booing because Rich Carlos is coming on to attempt the field goal.
I think this is a good move, but they had better hurry up. There's 10 seconds left on the play clock to get this field goal off.
It's up, and it's good. So Rich Carlos adds an extra 3 to the scoreboard for the Lions. They now lead at 38-21 with 11 seconds remaining in the third.
And James, I thought that was a good move for one reason. This now puts the Redskins 3 scores away from getting in front of the Detroit Lions. 3 scores is tough for the Detroit Lions defense to give up. They don't do that very often.
Yesterday in college football, Notre Dame over Navy, 52-31. Temple a loser to number 11 Tennessee. And of course that sets up next week right here on CBS Sports. Notre Dame taking on Tennessee. That game will be played at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee. And of course it all begins live at 2 o'clock Eastern time with Andrea Joyce and Mike Francesa in the studio with College Football Today.
And that Notre Dame-Navy game was tied 10-10 at halftime. Notre Dame scored 42 points in the second half on Navy.
And Rodney Peete back on the field after being examined in the locker room. Rich Carlos to kick off. High and short. from the 7. Joe Howard. And Howard across the 20 to about the 22-yard line. With 1 second left in the third. Rodney Peete came into the game smiling with the new 1-year extension of his contract. Had been the lowest paid quarterback in the league. Originally signing a 2-year deal for approximately $235,000. Last play of the third. Rutledge on 1st and 10 for the Skins. Play action. And Rutledge slides forward, giving himself up to the 20 as Jimmy Williams stops him. Well, that's the end of the third quarter with the score Lions 38, Redskins 21. Our coverage will continue after this message from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Washington Redskins and the Detroit Lions doing battle inside the Silverdome, and a crowd just shy of the 70,000 mark has plenty to cheer about. Not so with Joe Gibbs as he looks at his Skins trailing 38-21 as we start the fourth quarter of play here in Pontiac, Michigan. Redskins from their own 20, 2nd and 11. Rutledge complete to Gary Clark, and Clark gets back enough yardage for the first down.
A nice job by Gary Clark right there coming back to the ball. He actually was about 5 yards from the ball or further down the field when that ball was thrown. He came back and leaped up in front of defenders to get it. See New Orleans leading Cincinnati 21-7. So Cincinnati's Jekyll and Hyde appearance seems to be intact.
Back home after being on the road for 5 consecutive weeks. Minor, the back. Rutledge back to pass. Looking for Monk. Complete for another first down. And Monk still on his feet. Ridden out of bounds by Jimmy Williams at the 40 of Detroit.
This play is rifled in there by Rutledge and Monk. But the bad thing about this play comes from the Detroit defense and the chances that are taken by Crockett and Leroy Irvin. Watch these two guys diving in there, going for interceptions. Benny Blades misses the tackle. And Jimmy Williams has to club down in there at the very end to get Art Monk out of bounds. 3 very poor gambling plays by the Detroit defense.
Boy, has Jeff Rutledge performed well since he's been in there. 7 of 7, a total of 106 yards. 1st and 10 from the 40 of the Lions. Minor inside the 35, down near the 30. So Ernest Minor with a 9-yard run will bring up a 2nd and 1, stopped by Keith Ferguson.
One thing I like about Washington's attack so far, James, they've hung with their guns. Joe Gibbs has maintained his patience. Wayne Fonts doubted if Washington could really stay patient against his defense. Joe Gibbs has stayed very patient. He stayed with what he started with. He's running the ball effectively. He's using his short passing game. He has not panicked. He has 13 minutes left, and he's 17 points down.
And a 2nd and 1 here from the 31 of the Lions. Clark to the near side. This is Sanders in motion. Rutledge. Complete to Sanders. And Sanders down near the 21. Chris Spielman on the stop. And that was good enough for another first down. So Rutledge moving the squad very effectively. And Randy, Rutledge says he knows that the only thing people think about him is that he's a good backup. He wants to show that he can be a more effective starter. 1st and 10. Ball at the 21 of the Lions. 12:26 left in the game. Batted down by Jackie Klein. 6'5", 280 out of Alabama.
And that was an example of not having to be within 7 or 8 yards of the quarterback and being able to make a good play as a defensive lineman. Jackie Klein was being stuffed at the line of scrimmage and timed his jump just perfectly. Here's Schlereth, number 69, working against Klein. Watch what happens here. Schlereth has got him pinned. He's got him dominated at the line of scrimmage. Klein just puts a big paw up and blocks it.
2nd and 10. Rutledge going up top for Clark. Incomplete. As Clark, almost with a great catch, Leroy Irvin right on his kneecaps.
To the average wide receiver, this is a good attempt, but you know it's a hard to catch ball. To a Gary Clark, who I think is one of the best receivers in the league, this is a ball he says I should have had. He had the ball. It was his right elbow, makes contact with the ground. The ground jars the ball out of there. He does not have full possession. Watch this right here. He's got the ball in his hands and he cradles it, but before he can really get possession, the elbow hits the ground and knocks the ball out.
3rd and 10. Nearly intercepted by Leroy Irvin. Intended receiver was Gary Clark. Will bring up a 4th and 10 as Chip Lohmiller comes on.
Here's Clark starting on the right, dragging across. Sanders goes in front of him. He goes into the zone behind the linebackers. He's in front of the defensive backs. Good timing by Leroy Irvin. Look at that. Anticipation.
And Chip Lohmiller comes on to attempt a 38-yard field goal. It's up. And it's good. So Chip Lohmiller now moves into a 2nd place tie on the NFL all-time list with consecutive games field goals made.
This game summary is sponsored by Levi's 505, 506, and 540 jeans.
Detroit has capitalized off of Washington turnovers, 24 points worth. The posse back into the game reception-wise, and Rodney Peete, impressive when he was there before being injured. And the score, Washington trailing by 2 touchdowns. And Randy, more than enough time with just under 12 minutes. What's important from the Redskins' perspective?
I think the Redskin defense needs to have a complete series of downs. They can't have 2 real good plays and give up a big play. They need to stuff the Lions here.
Onside kick does not work. And the Lions alert. Darren Carrington, alert player that time. So Joe Gibbs reaching into the bag.
Both teams are pulling out all the stops here, James. Like I said, they're throwing bombs. They are going after each other with everything they have, because both teams realize on Detroit's side this would be a 5th loss. On Washington's side, a 4th loss might be a hole too big to dig back out of.
Galliano at the helm. 1st and 10 from the 47 of Detroit. Complete to Aubrey Matthews, and Matthews loses the ball. Recovered by the Redskins. If the ball was live, it should be Redskins ball. And it's signaled as such. So Fred Stokes comes up with the loose ball.
What they have to determine is, was he down by the time he gets hit and the ball comes loose? Let's watch right here at the end of this play as the ball is flipped out here to Matthews. Was he down? Does not look like that from that angle. Looks like he was not on the ground yet. We'll look at it from another angle. Here comes Matthews. He's about to be hit. The ball is loose. That was a fumble. That ball was definitely coming out before he hit the ground, and that play is being reviewed by the men upstairs.
Well, no doubt from that angle. And it's confirmed. Tom Kelleher, our replay official, and Fred Stokes comes up with the loose ball.
After 4 Washington turnovers to none for Detroit in this game so far, Detroit had turned over the ball in one of the worst possible times when the Redskins had finally gotten some momentum going.
So the Redskins take over at their own 46, 11:46 remaining, trailing by 2 touchdowns. Jeff Rutledge at quarterback. Mark Ernest Biner. And Ernest Biner runs up about, well, they're going to mark it. Looks like right about 6 inches shy of the first down marker. We'll call it 2nd and 1. Clark to the near side. Biner, first down. So Ernest Biner off the right side of the line for a 4-yard gain. Washington with 11 minutes remaining in the contest. And Jeff Rutledge has done a magnificent job of running the squad since he's been in. First and 10 from the 41 of Detroit. Rutledge for Monk. They call him inbounds, complete for the first down. So the official is indicating that because of the force out, that catch is good. Monk would have been inbounds had he been allowed to come down. A 16-yard pass play.
And when they say force out, you remember that from the old days in the schoolyard, getting forced out? Well, watch. Monk would have come down inbounds is what the official is saying. He would have come down there easily. Yes, he was in. It does not even matter. Contact or not, Monk got his feet down.
Long toes. First and 10 from the 25. Rutledge. Complete to Clark.
Good concentration by Gary Clark, because that play right there, that ball was deflected before it got out there to Gary Clark.
Pick up a 3 on the play. Should bring up a 2nd and 7. Ball at the 22 of Detroit. 10 minutes left in the game. Rutledge going up top for Donnie Warren and overthrows it. Leroy Irvin with the coverage. So Donnie Warren, who had a career-high 10 receptions last week against the Giants, trying to come up with a big one there. Let's check in New York with Greg Gumbel.
All right, James, at Green Bay, 10-10 tie. Joe Montana from 6 yards out finds Brent Jones in the end zone, and the extra point has the 49ers on top 17-10 over the Pack. Fourth quarter. Let's go back to JB.
All right, Greg. No matter the 49ers not in stride, they always find a way. 3rd and 7. Rutledge throwing in the direction of Kelvin Bryant, incomplete.
Jeff Rutledge was getting a little pressure there late. One of the things, if he'd have had more time, he might have seen, watch Gary Clark in the back of the end zone. Leroy Irvin's trying to chase him over there, but he's in there all by himself.
9:45 remaining in the game. And Clark, you can see the frustrated look on his face. He wanted it, and I'm sure Rutledge wanted to get it to him. 4th and 7. And Washington calls a timeout to talk it over. So Washington burns a timeout. They'll be left with 2, trailing by 2 touchdowns.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Honda, maker of fine quality automobiles. Test drive a Honda today. Hewlett-Packard LaserJet printers, they'll get you noticed. And by Coors Light, the one that won't slow you down. The Silver Bullet is the right beer now.
4th and 7, Randy.
And Joe Gibbs is willing to gamble at this point that his offense can get this first down. look for things in the short range, 5 to 6 yards, with the receiver leaning for that first down.
Incomplete. Art Monk, the intended receiver. Pass was low.
And Washington was thinking deep with a comeback. And Art Monk, who's going to be coming out of the right, pushes the defensive back all the way back and is coming back for the ball. But the ball is thrown low and in front of him, and he cannot hold on to that ball in front of Oldham, number 42.
So the Lions take over at their own 22 with 9:35 remaining. On top, 38 to 24. Galliano, the quarterback. Going up top for Aubrey Matthews, incomplete. Sidney Johnson right there on the coverage. Talk about a long stretch 25 years ago when Detroit last beat the Skins.
I think that speaks for itself, James. If you look at that, no such thing as the Super Bowl.
And 1/3 of the Lions roster not even born.
17 of the guys in the current Detroit Lions roster were not born in 1965.
Back to action here, 2nd and 10, ball at the 22. Galliano escapes the pressure, now being chased by Monty Coleman and pushed out of bounds. And Monty Coleman did a good job.
That was very, very close to being ruled grounding by the quarterback, because he is obviously throwing this ball away to avoid a sack or a loss on the end of this play. Watch Coleman pursuing Galliano. Bob knows exactly where he is, and he gets rid of this ball not to complete a pass. He's getting rid of this ball to make it quite obvious that he does not lose ground either by sack or by going out of bounds.
An all-out effort by Monty Coleman, who came into the game with a sprained knee and just left, headed to the Redskins sidelines limping. 3rd and 10. 6 DBs in for the Skins. Galliano. Chased by Wilbur Marshall. Grabbed by Marshall out of bounds. Well shy of the yardage needed for the first down. Only a 5-yard run. So Jim Arnold will come on to punt for the Lions.
In the speed mismatch here, Wilbur Marshall will catch Bob Galliano every time. Watch him grab and bend this arm. Whoa! Pulling that right arm all the way back. Watch this from the other angle. Gets a hold of that right arm. He's pulling, he's tweaking, he's trying to do anything he can. Wrong arm, Wilbur. The ball's in the other one.
Hog tied. Arnold looks to be okay over there talking with Rodney Peete, while Jim Arnold is on to punt. Stanley has the ball knocked out of his arms by Ray Crockett. First down for the Skins, 1st and 10, ball at their own 20. 8:33 remain in the game. Washington trailing 38 to 24. Rutledge. Complete to Biner out of the backfield. And Biner picks up about 7 on that pass play. Second down. Has the yardage for the first down pass to Ernest Biner. Chris Spielman on the tackle.
And Washington, feeling more of a sense of urgency with 7 minutes and 50 seconds left, is in their hurry-up offense. If they're not going to move the ball down the field in big chunks, they need to move this hurry-up offense to get down the field.
Rutledge looking for Ricky Sanders. Complete inside the 40 of Detroit. William White on the tackle.
job by Rutledge because he gets smacked right at the end of this play. Mike Kofor and Joe Jacoby in at left tackle hits him real late. Sanders goes up. Benny Blades gets there a little too late.
From the 38 of Detroit, Rutledge throws it low, intended receiver Kelvin Bryant, but Rutledge, under pressure that time, had to get rid of it. Kelvin Bryant chomping at the bit, trying to get more involved, hoping to get more involved in the offense this year. Came into the game with only 7 catches.
And Washington at this point is starting to feel the frustration, I believe, of Detroit's offense, or defense rather. Detroit's defense is giving them plays, letting them move down the field, but is not letting them into the end zones and take advantage of all the good offense that Washington is starting to pile up.
Defensive package in for the Lions. 6 DBs on 2nd and 10 for Washington. This is Bryant. And Bryant is tripped by Michael Kofor and lunges forward close to the first down marker. They call it an 8-yard pickup, bringing up a 3rd and 2. Bryant. We'll see where they mark it.
It would appear it's going to be just a little bit short of that first down.
Keith Ferguson on the stop. Close enough for a measurement.
It really doesn't matter if this is 4th down or not. They have got to go on this next play. One way or the other, the Washington Redskins are running a play here.
Well, it'll be a 4th down play.
Well, the Redskins have lived and died for the better part of the last 10 years with this big physical offensive line. This is the time they have to earn their money, get a key first down right now.
Fourth down and about a half yard. Offsides, Redskins, Joe Jacoby.
Big veteran offensive tackle Joe Jacoby in substituting for Jim Lachey. Watch him right here on the outside of the line, just all of a sudden lurch forward. Seems just to be a slight twitch and then a full jump.
It goes from being 4th and about a half yard to 4th and 6.
In this situation last time, Washington drove them off with their wide receivers. Art Monk's going to be out wide right.
First down, Gary Clark. Inside the 20, still on his feet. And Clark will score. Touchdown, Washington. No flags. So with 5:48 remaining in the game, Skins still within striking distance.
On this play, the Redskins seemed to confuse the Detroit defense. They had their receivers and their backs moving all over the place, and the Detroit defense adjusted late and got confused. William White misses the tackle, and from here on out, it's Gary Clark and his athletic ability.
And the point after by Low Miller is good. And we've got a new ball game. Washington trailing by just a touchdown with 5:48 remaining. And a Redskins player is down after that point after. Take a look at Gary Clark, who caught the touchdown pass. That was Mark Schlereth, but he seems to be moving okay.
And here Rutledge is going to hit Clark. Good job by the Washington coaches of putting this play together and confusing the Detroit defense. White misses the tackle, and McNorton gets faked out, and from there on, it's Gary Clark for 6.
Randy, this is almost like an NBA game where no lead is a big enough lead. 5:48 remaining. Skins trailing by just a touchdown, 38-31. Now, one of the knocks of the run and shoot offense, Randy, is how do you get possession? How do you get ground control, if you will, burning time off of the clock? Plenty of time remaining.
Well, they've got a running game that is able to take time off the clock. Plus, I think by its basic nature, with this crew of wide receivers, it is more of a short passing possession game as far as the offense goes. They are able to do that. The receivers must always keep in mind, from here on out, I got to stay in bounds.
Bo Miller boots this one. Mel Gray back from the 3. And Gray run out of bounds at about the 24-yard line. Kick off your football Sunday next week with the NFL Today at 12:30 Eastern, and then stay tuned for some doubleheader action in the early game. Many of you will see Atlanta taking on the Bears in Chicago, or Minnesota and Detroit. Then in the late game, the Giants travel cross country to take on the Rams, or watch the Green Bay Packers in a battle with the LA Raiders, and it all begins next Sunday at 12:30 Eastern. The numbers here. Lions on top by a touchdown. 5:38 remaining in the game. First and 10. Ball at the 25. Galliano. Tackle missed by Andre Collins. And Galliano grabbed by Jumpy Geathers. Well, Jumpy Geathers, the Plan B acquisition from the New Orleans Saints, in on the stop.
And a good job downfield by the Washington defensive backs. They got up and they got physical with those Detroit Lions wide receivers. Now watch the end of the play here. Collins cannot hold on to Galliano. Now watch Jumpy Geathers kind of pull Galliano down by the top of his helmet. Bam! Might have gotten the face mask, but he got away with it.
So Jumpy Geathers forces Galliano into a loss of 8, making it 2nd and 18. To Matthews, complete. And Matthews across the 30 to about the 32. 10-yard pickup will bring up a 3rd and 8 for the Lions. 4:45 remaining in the game. Keep in mind that Rodney Peete left earlier in the game with a hamstring injury. There he is, number 9 on the sidelines. Bob Galliano has come on in relief.
And what that does, that enables Washington to be more freewheeling coming after the quarterback. They do not have to be as concerned about the running quarterback now that Galliano's in there.
3rd and 8 from the 27. Galliano looks to have been tackled shy of the first down by about a yard.
One thing to remember when a quarterback is diving or sliding or going for a first down like this, it's not where he finally ends up and stops and somebody touches him. Once he makes that commitment to dive or slide, it's where he initially makes contact with the ground. And he makes contact with the ground right where they mark it.
So the Redskins will get the ball back as Jim Arnold is on to punt for the Lions. Walter Stanley back for the Redskins, and Stanley is dangerous. And a good punt. And Stanley out of bounds at the 15 of Washington with 3:24 left in the game. A 52-yard punt by Jimmy Arnold. Excellent job. Timeouts remaining in the contest for both Washington and Detroit. Washington with 2, Detroit with 3.
Washington needs to do nothing different from what they did last time they had the ball. They're moving the ball down the field. They use motion and they use various formations that seem to get Detroit confused.
Wayne Font's defense will have to contend with is a veteran backup in Jeff Rutledge, who's shown a lot of poise, Randy. First and 10. Ball at the 15 of Washington. Bynum, the back. Rutledge complete to Monk. And Monk stopped by Ray Crockett. 8-yard pass play will bring up a 2nd and 2. Rutledge complete to Bynum. Bynum with the first down. Up to about the 28-29-yard line, stopped by Michael Cofer.
Now it's a matter of how patient can Detroit stay. Can Detroit not bite on a short play, which may set up a long play for the Redskins?
Rutledge, one first down. Incomplete, intended to receiver Gary Clark. Leroy Irvin, great play. 2:38 remaining. Redskins trailing by a touchdown.
And Irvin dove in there right at the last second, stuck his hands right in front of Clark's to bat that ball away. But it still holds. Detroit is a team now that must maintain its patience. Earlier they watched Washington go short, 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 and all of a sudden a big long pass to Sanders. This is where they're vulnerable. Detroit gets to concentrating too much on what's happening underneath them. They might forget about what's happening a little bit behind them.
2nd and 10. Rutledge for Bryant, complete. Shy of the first down marker by about 4 yards. Will bring up a 3rd and 4. 2:33 remaining in the game as Wayne Font checks the clock.
This is two-play territory for Joe Gibbs. He has got to have a first down here.
Complete, first down, Art Monk. And the clock continues to wind down. An 8-yard pass play from Rutledge to Monk. Ball marked at the 44 of Washington. 1st and 10. Complete to Bryant. Bryant, first down. And that play by Bryant will take us to the 2-minute warning. In Detroit territory. Washington will have it. 1st and 10. Timeouts remaining. The Lions with 3, and Jeff Rutledge has been sensational for Joe Gibbs. 20 of 28 for 267 yards. First and 10. Ball at the 43 of the Lions. Going up top for Gary Clark. It's caught and dropped. Gary Clark had Leroy Irvin beat.
And the patience of Detroit was tested on this play. Gary Clark had Irvin beat, had the ball on his hands, but the veteran comes in and strips the ball away with his arms. Pulls those elbows back, and Clark cannot hold on. Detroit was being lulled to sleep. Stuff in front, stuff in front. They went deep. Should have been caught.
2nd and 10. 1:53 remaining. Rutledge to Monk, complete. Monk about 2 yards shy of the first down marker as the clock continues to tick. 1:40 remaining in the game. Brings up a 3rd and 2 for the Skins. Flags on a play. Too many men perhaps for the Lions as Rutledge throws it complete to Ricky Sanders. Enough for the first down. but it looked as if the Lions had too many men on the field.
That was a free play. There were 12 men on the field as Duckins, number 91, was hurrying off at the last second.
Smart play on Rutledge's part to get the ball snapped.
On the field against the defense.
And that play was called. Watch Duckins right here coming off the field. He is the 12th man, number 91, trying to escape before the snap. Take it from us. He didn't make it.
6'4", 270. He was lumbering trying to get off.
Continue to go with their short to intermediate passing game here. It's now Detroit who must take the chances and try to make something happen to stop the Redskins.
1st and 10, Skins at the 30 of the Lions. 1:23 left. Complete to Kelvin Bryant. And Bryant near the first down territory. Stopped by George Jamison. Washington trailing by a touchdown. Brings up a 2nd and 1. Rutledge. Bad pass. Intended receiver. Gary Clark. Under a minute to play. And Washington needs a touchdown.
And this series is testing the Wayne Fonts theory of bend but don't break. They're bending, they're bending, they're bending. Can they hold? Can they keep the Redskins in front of them and not let one of these talented posse receivers, Clark, Sanders, or Monk, get into a crease or get behind them for 6?
3rd and 1. Washington calls a timeout after getting the first down. Washington left with 1 timeout. Ball inside the 20 of the Lions. Ball marked at the 17.
Right here, you got to keep going with what brought you right now. The posse has had a heck of a game. Sanders, Monk, and Clark have had a great game so far. They have not thrown a single pass except for the 1 touchdown to Johnson to their tight ends. They're going to go to the receivers, and they're going to keep going to them underneath and let those guys and their talent make things happen.
You speak of talent. The Skins were subtly but explicit about saying, hey, we are in fact a better team at the wide receiver position. Their DBs cannot stop us.
Washington is a better team. They are a veteran team. They have been here before. Detroit has not been here in what they consider to be their biggest game in years.
1st and 10 from the 17 of the Lions. Rutledge back to pass. Batted down again by Jackie Klein. His 2nd batted ball of the afternoon. Will make it 2nd and 10 with 41 seconds remaining in the game.
And Big Jackie, you don't have to get real close right there. He wasn't but 5-6 yards away, but he got those big arms and batted that thing down. Here's Schlereth and Klein right there. Look at the space. Right there between Rutledge and Schlereth. Doesn't matter. Klein will knock this down. 2nd and 10.
Clark to the far side. Monk to the near side. 2nd and 10. Complete to Gary Clark. Short of the first down marker by about 4 yards. He's going to have to, they're going to have to keep in mind when to signal for that last timeout. 5-yard pickup on the play. And Washington burns off their last timeout. So So with 24 seconds remaining in the game, Washington has called their last timeout, trailing by a touchdown to the Lions. Live here at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan, an interdivision battle between the Washington Redskins and the Detroit Lions. Lions on top by 7. The Lions have not beaten Washington in 25 years, and Washington has just called its last timeout. Wayne Fonts has seen Jeff Rutledge come on in relief of Stan Humphries, who went out early in the third quarter. Rutledge, 24-35, 288 yards. Third down and 5, ball at the 12 of the Lions.
The Redskins have got to go into the end zone. No more underneath stuff here.
Rutledge, quarterback keeper. Touchdown, Washington.
What a gutsy call by Joe Gibbs and the Washington Redskins. Rutledge coming through here. Does he get to the end zone? Yes.
All-important extra point. And it's good, so Chip Lohmiller ties it up with 18 seconds remaining. Detroit had led by 17 points.
At this point, if you're Detroit, you've got to be extremely down right now. Wayne Fonts is trying to rally his troops on the sideline. Their only hope here for a win is a long kickoff return. They'll either set them up in position to go for a field goal or give them at least one play, because there's only 18 seconds left for them to try to get a field goal to win this game. Or if not, we're going into overtime.
Wayne Fonts will try to find out if the silver stretch can really come up with a quick strike here. And the Lions, keep in mind, do have 3 timeouts remaining. Rodney Peete went out with an injured hamstring, replaced by Bob Galliano here in the second half.
Detroit should get this back with about 12 seconds left. So they should burn off around 5-6 seconds on this return. And with 3 timeouts, that'll leave them room for 2 plays once they get the ball back. You got to think they're going to kick the ball away from Mel Gray. Why give it to the leading kickoff returner in the NFL in this situation?
Lohmiller. Mel Gray will take it from the 2. Flags on the play as Mel Gray is smacked hard by Kurt Gouveia. And Gray slow getting up. Nico Noga.
I wouldn't think we'd see Wayne Fonts and Detroit Lions take too many chances right here. Fall on the ball, kneel down, let's go into overtime.
Boy, and Fonts has got to be scratching his head. His team ahead at one point. 35-14, only to see the Skins come back to tie it up. And that's exactly what they do, Randy. So that will do it for regulation play here at the Silverdome. And action ends in regulation tied at 38 apiece. And we get set for a 15-minute overtime period. And of course, keep in mind, sudden death rules apply.
And what could be very key from the standpoint of momentum, we'll have another coin toss. Washington's got all the momentum going for them right now. If they can win this coin toss, I think they're going a long way towards getting this game into control and go for a win.
Rules are pretty self-explanatory there as far as overtime is concerned. And Randy, you just made the point about momentum being Washington's way. And the Skins obviously win the coin toss. So Washington will receive. And we'll be back for the start of overtime play here at the Silverdome, all tied at 38 apiece. 38 apiece. Washington's all-time record in overtime, 7-3. Take a look at Joe Gibbs getting things set for this overtime period. The last overtime game that the Lions were involved in occurred back in October of '89 against Green Bay, a loss by 3 points, 23-20. And their all-time overtime record, 4-5-1.
And I think the offense, James, we saw from Washington last time they had the ball, moving the ball down the field, hurry up offense, throw it, is going to be very different from the one we'll see here. I think we'll see them pounding the ball down the field, eating up the clock, and trying to set Chip Lohmiller up for a field goal.
And we made mention at the top of the show, Washington has owned Detroit in this series. 20-3, the series mark, including a playoff victory back in 1982. Last Lions victory 25 years ago, 1965. Carlos boots it high and short in the direction of Joe Howard. And Howard steps out of bounds at the 15.
Pretty marginal decision there to field that kick right on the line. That would have gone out of bounds if Joe Howard had not have caught that. Now the Redskins can do nothing but be very, very conservative this far back.
1st and 10 for the Skins from the 15. Jeff Rutledge came on for Stan Humphries early in the 3rd and has been very impressive. Out of the I formation, Riggs, the back. Riggs, the ball carrier. No gain on after that fumble.
He was also thrown out by a good defensive play by Detroit. Detroit's whole defensive front just merged over to the right, cut off all his lanes to cut back, and they just stuffed that ball and that entire play right back into the Redskins' backfield.
The ball is marked at the 14, so a loss of 1 will bring up a 2nd and 11. Art Monk to the near side. Gary Clark to the far side. Sanders in the slot. We understand we're having some troubles with the picture. We'll give you a radio call on it. Rutledge complete to Ricky Sanders, and Sanders up near the 20. 6-yard pickup on a play. And just to make you aware, we are working on the technical difficulties. We'll try to get you the action back clearly in just a moment. Third and 5 for the Redskins. Ball marked at their own 20. Art Monk is in motion. And Jeff Rutledge calls a timeout. So Rutledge will head to the sidelines to discuss things. Didn't like what he saw out there. Against ball when we come back. In overtime at the Silverdome, Washington, Detroit all tied at 38 apiece. 15-minute overtime ran to each team, given 2 timeouts apiece. Washington has called one, leaving one. You said that was a good timeout call.
Good job right there by Rutledge. The last thing Washington wanted was a miscommunication between the quarterback and receivers that could cause an interception or cause a loss of down. Loss of yardage, I should say.
3rd and 5 on the 20. Rutledge dropped. Keith Ferguson. Second sack of the afternoon for Keith Ferguson.
Watch Keith Ferguson coming right here, driving up. It's a case of persistence, working against Raleigh McKenzie. I'm sorry, against Florette. Watch this. Keeps coming, and gets in there for the sack.
Ralph Moisienko, not a good punt, and takes a Lions bounce. So Detroit will operate with good field position. A 31-yard punt from Ralph Moisienko. Ball will be marked at the 45 of Washington. Sudden death overtime. Lions with their first opportunity to try and score. Bob Galliano at quarterback.
And Detroit needs at least 15 yards to get into reasonable Rich Karlis range. That would put him 47 yards out, which would be on the outside of his range here in Detroit.
His career longest is 51. Galliano, option. Dragged down by Wilbur Marshall. Pickup of about 3 on the play to bring up a 2nd and 7.
Look for Detroit to be very conservative when they throw the ball. It'll be short, underneath to the wide receivers, looking for nothing more really than first downs in this situation.
Marked at the 41, 2nd and 6. Galliano. Bad pass. Tip. And give the credit to Wilbur Marshall with a lot of pressure that time. So Wilbur Marshall, who didn't think he would see much action, capitalizing on what play he is being given today.
And on that particular play, Wilbur Marshall got a chance to go against Barry Sanders, not known for his great pass blocking ability, and he bulldozed right through Sanders and ended up right in Bob Galliano's chest.
And as a result, Wayne Fonts brings Barry Sanders off and brings in a bigger back in James Wilder at 6'3", 225. 10th-year veteran out of Missouri, number 34.
Look for the receivers out of the slots, getting underneath the zones, about 7 yards from the ball.
On 3rd and 6, Galliano. Incomplete, intended receiver, Richard Johnson. Ball thrown a little too high. Richard Johnson, only 5'6", 185, and carrying a little weight up in the air.
And that ball was a little high, but it was also extremely catchable. Richard Johnson should have had that. It would have been a first down. Jim Arnold is one of the better kickers in the NFL, making the ball die inside the 5 and getting the ball out inside the 20.
And Walter Stanley, certainly one of the better punt returners in the NFL. And Stanley there catches it at the 9. A 32-yard punt by Jim Arnold. Don't forget, next Saturday here on CBS Sports, more college football comes your way as Blue Host takes the number 2 ranked Fighting Irish into Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the Volunteers. It all begins at 2 o'clock Eastern Time with Andrea Joyce and Mike Francesa, the College Football Today Show. 38-38 tie in overtime. 11:53 remaining in overtime. First team to score wins. Wayne Fonts And Joe Gibbs. Gibbs with his first trip ever here to the Silverdome. Rutledge at quarterback for the Skins. From their own 10. First and 10. Complete to Ricky Sanders. Up to about the 14. We'll bring up a 2nd and 6.
Washington's got to think, plugging the ball out, getting first downs. They have 11 and a half minutes left in this overtime period. Just patience and control are Washington's keywords.
Monk to the far side. Clark to the near side. Minor, the lone back. Rutledge, sacked by Dan Owens. Sack number 6 for the Lions.
Coming out right in here. Watch him just come right up here for his sack. Good job by Owens. Good intensity. Comes driving off the ball. They're trying to match up Bostic, or I'm sorry, McKenzie coming and pulling from his right guard spot, trying to block on Owens. No way on that one.
3rd and 15 from the 4. Rutledge up top for Monk. Complete for the first down and up near the 45-yard line.
We talked about in the 4th quarter, Detroit maintaining their patience, keeping everything in front of them and not letting things get behind them. Leroy Irvin, 47, lets Monk get behind him, tries to play back late to the ball, knocking it down, but he can't do it.
Art Monk, strong afternoon, and Washington 636 total yards, a team record. More importantly, 1st and 10, ball at the 45 of the Skins. To Bryant. And Bryant has the first down. So Jeff Rutledge finds Kelvin Bryant, and Bryant anxious coming into today to contribute.
And this puts the Washington Redskins on the Detroit 44 rather, that puts them about 14 yards from Chip Lohmiller's range. They must get to about the 30-yard line, and I believe Chip Lohmiller can drill through a 47-yard field goal.
That 55-yarder came against Dallas this year. 1st and 10, ball at the 44 of the Lions. Rutledge to Monk, complete. Monk inside the 40 to about the 39, a 5-yard pass play.
Washington is now in a situation they don't have to get greedy. If Detroit wants to give them those short underneath passes, they can take them and methodically move the ball down the field and set Lohmiller up for a field goal.
Ball at the 39 of the Lions. 2nd and 5. Complete for the first down to Sanders, and Sanders down near the 30. Ray Crockett on the stop.
From here on in, it is gravy for the Washington Redskins. They are now close enough for a field goal. They can get very conservative. If Joe Gibbs wants right now, he can start running that counter tray of his back and forth to set the ball up towards the middle of the field. It's a long field goal, but from here on out, they're well within field goal range.
And Gibbs has a lot of confidence in Lohmiller, who, although missed 4 against Philadelphia this season, they changed holders. The guy at quarterback is now the holder. 1st and 10. Minor. To about the 28-yard line. Run out of bounds by Benny Blades and Leroy Irvin.
Way to go, baby. Way to go, EB.
Overtime action here at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. 38-38 all tie between the Washington Redskins and the Detroit Lions. James Brown along with Randy Cross. And you see the time remaining in overtime, first score wins it.
And the Detroit Lion defense at this point has to resort to taking chances and taking gambles. They must try to make a big play right here.
2nd and 7. Redskins going to pass. Up top for Ricky Sanders. Ricky Sanders, the intended receiver, covered by Crockett and McNorton.
And on that play, Washington saw the blitz, saw that Detroit was coming after him, and took a chance downfield in the end zone trying for 6.
And there's a down Lion on the field. It looks like Michael Kofer from here. And it is.
And as we see Kofer up there, here he is at the top of the screen working against Joe Jacoby, number 66. It would appear he comes up with a bit of a cramp during this play. Comes off the line of scrimmage. And indoors in games like this, Mike Kofer's been going hard the whole time. Right there, that leg stiffens up. Look at that right leg, and he's grabbing it. That looks like a cramp. The trainers are working that foot up and down, trying to get those muscles to relax a little bit in the calf.
Randy, I guess one question that certainly would come up with 44, 45-yard attempt, and you can answer when we come back, is whether or not Joe Gibbs should go for the field goal now or not. And as we headed to commercial, Randy, I was asking you, would you attempt a 44, 45-yard field goal at this point or continue to try and chip away?
If the ball was a little bit closer, James, maybe. I think this far out, you have to try to get those few more yards, get the ball in the middle of the field, and set your field goal kicker up properly.
On 3rd down, Riggs, the ball carrier. And Riggs takes it down to the 18. And this would seem to be close enough, as Riggs runs it for the 1st down.
It would appear initially the way this play started, they wanted to bang it into the middle. But Riggs sees there's nothing there and follows Jimmy Johnson, his tight end, in motion all the way around to the outside. And from then on out, it is just him powering through the Detroit Lions. We have 1st and 10 on the 18-yard line for the Skins.
The down Lion player was Michael Kofer. He left the field with cramps. 1st and 10, ball at the 18. The Skins keep it on the ground for maybe a yard.
Now this is the situation, James, I would expect Washington to kick this ball at any time right now.
Jerry Ball, the nose tackle for the Lions. Slow getting up on the play.
He doesn't want to leave the field, but this looks like it's an injury timeout for the Lions. He has got to leave the field for one play. See Joe Gibbs and Rutledge on the sideline discussing what exactly he should do.
And as we take a look back to the 4th quarter, with about 30 seconds to play, key play of the ball game.
Gutsy call by the coaches. Jeff Rutledge on a quarterback draw gets a little block there from Bostic 53, his center, and then dives in face first onto the goal line. They give him a score.
And that score, of course, tied the ball game for Joe Gibbs. And we're into overtime play. 6:38 remaining in overtime. Jeff Rutledge, clearly the hero. 2nd and 9. On the ground again.
Setting that ball up right there, smack dab in the middle of the field for the field goal unit, who's now coming on the field.
So Chip Lohmiller will come on and try to give Washington the win. And as I mentioned, Jeff Rutledge, the new holder. Ralph Moishienko had been the holder since the beginning of last season. The Skins changed last ball game. This will be a 34-yard field goal attempt. And it's good. There is a flag on the play. There is a flag on the play.
Holding defense, pull and shoot. Let penalties decline. The game is over.
You heard it. So Washington battles back to win one whale of a ball game.
And from this close, Lohmiller leaves no doubt. It's high, and it's straight down the middle. Lohmiller makes it, and Joe Gibbs of Washington proves, yes, he does have the patience to hang with the bend but don't break offense. Low snap, good hold by Rutledge, getting it down in time. Lohmiller knew it right away.
And Joe Gibbs, who have been down in a prayerful position. And the Redskins battle back to win it 41-38. So for Randy Cross, this is James Brown saying so long from the Pontiac Silverdome, where the final score, Washington 41, Detroit 38. Coming next, our coverage continues with the NFL Today postgame show. Greg and Terry will bring you up to date on all of today's scores and highlights. You're watching CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League.